Thanks so much for giving us just a few moments of your time today. I spoke to you last week. We were talking about just some of the issues that local business owners have had in regards to the Paycheck Protection Plan and getting loans for that, getting all of their information together, being able to apply for it. There's been a lot of confusion. There's been delays. There's been issues with the banks. So you kind of went over that. We put that story up on the internet, but today, big news today. Melanie, do you kind of want to go through the latest developments that we learned this morning?
Sure. So what we have been hearing, like you said, Liz, in your article, as well as in your Facebook Live sessions, is that the good news is that Congress enacted the CARES Act on March 27th, and it included a brand new Paycheck Protection Program, which many people are referring to as the PPP. The problem, as you've noted, is that people or in particular small businesses, are finding that as they go to their lenders, if they didn't have a pre-existing relationship, they're having a hard time finding a lender who would be willing to file their Paycheck Protection Program application. And even if they did have a lender, I'm still hearing from people as of this morning of people that have both a personal and a business account at banks, and they still can't get their PPP application processed. But the good news that you alluded to is that we did find out that there was a significant additional amount of money that was pumped into the economy last night by the Fed. And so the good news about that is, while I've been researching it this morning, it doesn't seem to specifically necessarily say that it's for the PPP, but a lot of the things that I'm seeing are intimating that the whole point of that was to create additional money in the economy to really try to entice banks to open up their lending and to take on additional PPP applications.
So kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, so I too am hearing from these local business owners. I followed up with several of them who I spoke to for my story that I posted on YouTube, and they told me it's all in. Their paperwork is in, which was a lot. They had to go back and get a lot of information that they had to send. Once they got it in, though, they're still not hearing anything. And a lot of these business owners are telling me, I don't have time to wait. I can't wait 2, 3, 4 weeks, even a month. We are going to have to close our doors. I can't pay my employees if I don't get this money within days. Melanie, do you have any advice for those business owners who are having these issues, who need that money right away and maybe it's not coming fast enough?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts is that number one is that you can think about applying for an EIDL loan. And so with the EIDL loan, that is the second loan that the CARES Act addressed. It is a standing SBA loan that has always been in existence. A lot of us hadn't heard of it before because thankfully we didn't live in a area that had been havocked by, say, Hurricane Andrew, like in South Florida, or Katrina, such as New Orleans. So it may feel new to a lot of users, but in actuality, it's always been there. What the SBA and the feds did was that they went ahead and expanded that program, and they tried to streamline it to make it easier to apply, as well as to expand who can apply under it and the amount of money you can get. Now, the further good news under that is that there is a box you can check on the online application that specifically says, yes, I want to apply for a 10K advance. And with that advance, as I understand it, it is forgiven automatically, even if you don't ultimately end up qualifying or getting the loan. And so that can be a way to get immediate funds. Now, that's the good news. I do have to caveat that with what you cannot do is apply for an EIDL loan and a PPP loan for the same purpose. Let me be clear that yes, you can apply for both loans, both a PPP and an EIDL, but they cannot be for the same purpose. And the reason I bring that up is that a lot of these different loans really depend on if they're right for your business, on what your business's situation is. So if you are a business that is payroll heavy and you submitted that PPP application first and you don't have a lot of other expenses, it may be difficult for you to submit an EIDL application and say that it's not for the exact same purpose, which is what you can't do. And so at that point, you may need to start looking for an additional funding source. But if that EIDL could be helpful for additional things like rent, utilities, other fixed expenses that don't have to do with replacing lost revenue or expansion of a business, which are the two no-nos, quote unquote, under the EIDL, then that may be another good source of funding for you.
And when we last talked, you talked about have a plan A, B, C, and D. Don't just count on one loan or even two loans.
Yeah, and so I totally agree with that, that, one of the issues that we have been seeing is that people are having issues getting potentially, like we talked about, a PPP or an EIDL. And so one of the things that you and I talked about, Liz, is have your game plan A, B, and C. So, my game plan A, maybe I want to get a PPP. If that doesn't work out, my game plan B, maybe I'm going to apply for that EIDL. And then maybe your game plan C, and it could be a combination of any of these things. But the less talked about grant that is also available, or I guess loan that's been less talked about in Florida, is that Florida also has a small bridge loan for businesses. And if you are a business of 2 to 100 employees, that's $50,000. And if you're a business of one, so if you're self-employed contractor, that's been one of our biggest questions we've been getting is, am I still eligible to apply for these loans? And the answer is you absolutely are, but that you need to go ahead and get your application in, and then you would be eligible for a $25,000 loan with the if you're an individual.
And we even talked about GoFundMe and organizations like that who are trying to do their part and help too. They've actually opened GoFundMe up now for small businesses.
Yeah, so what we had identified, I am a small business owner. My business is called Spread Your Sunshine, and we have done a series of articles. We're getting ready to release another one, but what we have found is that there are several different private initiatives. So for instance, and I am not, by the way, no sponsorships here, just telling you what I found. But for instance, JP Morgan Chase, I think, announced an $8 million loan. Early on, Cabbage announced that it had a way for you to create gift cards, which is a way that small businesses are able to generate funds so that people can get money in the door today and then potentially use those funds later as, say, Christmas gifts or Hanukkah gifts when the economy is better. And then Shopify ended up opening up after Cabbage. And so with Cabbage, and that's Cabbage with a K, by the way, but ended up opening, so Cabbage was charging a small percentage of the gift card purchase that it would charge as a fee to the small business owners. After that, Shopify, if you are already connected, which is the #1 e-commerce site platform that a lot of small businesses use, Shopify announced a free way for their small businesses to create gift cards online if they didn't already have them. And then to your point, we ended up identifying to date over 30 funding sources that were private, I believe, if I remember correctly. And so one of them, like you mentioned, Liz, which is great as well, is GoFundMe. And as you noted when we were talking, a lot of times GoFundMe as a not-for-profit way of fundraising. They've actually started a small business initiative that now is giving monies to businesses as well, qualifying businesses. And if you raise at least $500, then GoFundMe and its partners are giving a $500 matching grant.
So I interviewed a woman, she's a dentist. She opened up her own practice, private practice 22 years ago. And she told me that she has one payroll left and then she's out of money. So if she can't get these loans by the end of that, she's not sure what she's going to do. She has 3 families depending on her for their salaries. I know that you can't directly give her advice, but just in general, in situations like that, what would you say to those small business owners who are still paying their employees, but they have maybe one payroll left?
And this is so hard to say, especially as a small business owner myself, because I know how that your business, a lot of times it gives me goosebumps to say this, is like a family to you, is that especially in a small business where, it goes up to 500 employees for the federal grants. But I mean, honestly, a lot of people I'm talking to, just like you, Liz, are more like 1, 2, 5. I mean, they really have that familial feel. And so it's even tougher to make these decisions. But what I would tell you is at least 2 things to think about. So and they're related, but #1 is that what you may need to think about is temporarily laying off or furloughing your employees so that you and they can apply for unemployment. And when I say you, as in the business owner, that for the first time in history, again, independent contractors, sole proprietors, and self-employed individuals are now eligible to apply for unemployment. And so that may be something you want to think about. And that actually leads me to point two, which is interrelated, is that, again, you have to think about what's best for your business in its particular situation. So a lot of the small business owners that I have talked to may have several weeks of funding left, but they just know it's in short supply depending upon how long this pandemic lasts. Many other small business owners are in the exact same situation as your dentist interviewee, in that they really only have, say, 1 week of payroll left. And if they don't get that 1 week of payroll or a supplemental loan to supplement that 1 week of payroll stat, then they will not be able to make another payroll. And so I think what you have to think about in that instance is, do you need that capital? And I am in no way advocating that you don't take care of your employees, but do you need that capital to restart your business once the economy recovers? And if the answer to that question is yes, as it honestly is for a lot of small business owners, then again, what you need to think about is having everybody go over for a short period of time to unemployment. Because in that instance, then if you need that money to restart and you use all your capital, it will be very difficult for you to do so once the economy opens back up. And so on that note, two quick things is that Florida, I know sometimes doesn't get the best rap for benefits, that previously our benefits were a max of $275. Florida has, not Florida, but because of the federal mandate, there's an extra $600 per week for up to 16 weeks, making that benefit $875 right now. So it's significantly increased from what it was for several classes of individuals. And then second is that Spread Your Sunshine is having a free webinar this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is with Career Source Tampa Bay's CEO, John Flanagan, specifically to go over the unemployment process and application. Because as you may know, Liz, that has gotten quite a bit of attention this past week because it has been a very frustrating process for many business owners and their employees.
Yeah, and Melanie, you're using Spread Your Sunshine to disseminate this information to try to help people and get the word out to them and give them some tools to work with.
Absolutely. So if our website is spreadyoursunshine.com, and then our handles on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook are Spread Your Sunshine, at Spread Your Sunshine as well. And to your point, Liz, we have written a series of articles on the CARES Act, on unemployment, how to access the paper application when that was what you had to do over the weekend. We'll now be posting our free webinar afterwards today. If you can't make it, we do have a free CARES Act webinar that we gave last Wednesday up on our website, as well as linked to our social media handles. And so if that is of help to different businesses, not only do I want them to follow you because you are creating such great content now, and I know that you are building out your YouTube platform. So please follow Liz Artz Hayes, and I'll let you talk more about that, Liz, in just a moment. But then additionally, Spread Your Sunshine is putting out a lot of concentrated content right now because we love helping to inspire and mentor small business owners. And we recognize the fact that although this isn't usually our main topic of conversation, that right now this is the best way we can help our community. And that if you all don't have dollars going into your pockets, there's no use talking about the other stuff because you won't have a viable business.
Yeah. Melanie, this information is so good. I know that, it's very emotional for a lot of small businesses who I've talked to. I've talked to several small business owners who were really just getting up and going. They had only been in business. They'd hit that 3-year mark where they were finally starting to see a profit, and then something like this happens and they're devastated. Some business owners have told me that, they feel like crying because when they finally thought that they were taking off, this happens. Any last word of advice to some of these business owners, especially the ones who were not as established as some others?
Again, I have goosebumps and I feel you. I had that exact same issue, is that, certainly on the one hand, you try and temper your own feelings because you recognize the fact that if that is your issue right now, thankfully we have our health and we're not, sick of coronavirus or have a family member that's sick of coronavirus ourselves. At the same time, I would say let yourself experience that grief, because I certainly shared it, that when I realized, quote unquote, what was happening, Spread Your Sunshine actually had a milestone of paying its 365th day of payroll yesterday, which was something I realized applying for the PPP. And to your point, Liz, what I realized is that a lot of the hopes and dreams that we had for 2020, if not beyond, are just out the window. And that was certainly something that caused a lot of anguish, certainly something that brought tears over the weekend that I had that realization. At the same time, what I encourage you to do, if you can, is truly to focus on, again, what are your different options, not to be embarrassed about any questions you may have or participating in any of these processes. It's something that all small businesses, and when I say small, again, these may be what we consider to be a very large business. I mean, I understand from a federal definition why a small business is 500 or under, but to me, you really made it, right? If you've got 500 people. So, just recognize that they're all going through it and think about how you can best pivot and make use of this time. Because what you also see, in addition to a lot of tears and a lot of anguish, is a lot of businesses also reinventing themselves and thinking about how they can continue to provide services and connect with the people they regularly provide products and services to. And so while there are certainly some industries where that's going to be impossible, really kind of stretch and look at what other people are doing and what you might have up here, as a brainchild as to how you might be able to continue serving your community differently.
Great information. Thank you so much. And thank you for talking to me. All of this came to me when I started talking to not just businesses that I use personally, and listening to the owners talk to me about what's happening with their business, their concerns, but just community members in general. I thought, you know what, why not bring this back to the community? Why not do a couple of stories? So yes, I'm always looking for more story ideas. And I would appreciate those in comments. I would love to be able to go live on YouTube, which I cannot do until I have 1,000 subscribers. So I would encourage as many people as possible to go over to my YouTube channel, Liz Artz Hayes, and subscribe so that we can go live on YouTube and sort of keep all of this together on the same page, even though it's great to have multiple places on social media to be able to get the information out there. And again, Melanie, I appreciate your insight. I appreciate you weighing in on this. And I know that all the information that you have given will be so helpful to so many people. In previous posts, I have put links to your business, links to your articles, various other links that you think will be helpful to people. I will do the same on this. And please, you keep us updated. Let us know if there's any new information out there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time and including me in your project, and looking forward to seeing you hit the threshold on YouTube and seeing all the great content that you put out this year.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your time this afternoon.
All right. Thanks, Liz.